Hello and welcome. Isabella Hawke here, and thank you for popping by. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Sharon Lechter. She's a New York Times bestselling author, a serial entrepreneur, and business strategist. I've subscribed to Sharon's ATM for the last year. I've subscribed to her website. I've been on a couple of her courses. Sharon has a lot to offer people in general, but women in particular. So I've been looking forward to this conversation for such a long time. So sit back, relax, and take in the info. Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much for joining me here today. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Isabel. Thank you so much.
So you've got a really amazing story to tell. You're an author, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business strategist, you're so many things to so many different people. Where did it all start?
Well, thank you so much. Obviously, I've been around a long time. So I actually grew up in a very entrepreneurial home. We lived in a little tiny house between my mom's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot. We had rental properties. At the age of 10, I had to go in and scrub out bathrooms between tenants. I swore I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a sophisticated professional. So I was the first generation of my family to go to college. I got my degree in accounting and started my career in public accounting back when very few women were there. I was only the fourth woman ever hired by the firm I was with. So it was definitely, I was plotting a course for other women to follow me. And I loved it. It was great. But about the ripe old age of 25, I was rapidly advancing in my career, but I was not in control of my own time. I was working very long hours. All of a sudden, my parents started looking a lot smarter. And at that time, I got a call from a client inviting me to go with him. He was investing in a company, buying it out of bankruptcy. And it gave me the opportunity to own a piece of it. And so I remember going back to my condo and doing the old pros and cons, because this is well before PCs or cell phones. And I listed out the pros and the cons. It didn't help me a bit because I could argue both sides. I was still very successful in my career, but I had this opportunity to do something different. And my hand kind of took off and wrote across the top of the page, why not? Why not do something different? Why not take a path less traveled? Why not solve a problem or serve a need? And that today is still my personal mantra. Why not? Why not do what other people aren't doing? And that's really the entrepreneurial journey at its best. So I made the decision to leave. It ended up being a really bad business decision, but had I not made that decision, I wouldn't have met a young attorney named Michael Lechter, and we're just about to celebrate 42 years of marriage. So as Napoleon Hill says, out of the adversity and mistakes comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. So my worst business decision gave me my best life decision. So sometimes you don't get that instant feedback, but that was the ripe old age of 25. And I have been an entrepreneur ever since, never looked back. Started a children's book industry, then sold that. I started the talking children's book, helped that grow around the world. And then our oldest son went off to college, got into credit card debt. I was pretty mad at him, but even more mad at myself because I thought I had taught him about money. And that's when that was December of 1992, and that's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy. And voila, a few years later, I write Rich Dad, Poor Dad and start that business and grow it, write 15 books in that series. And then left Rich Dad and started working with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, wrote some books with them. And all along, I have my company, Pay Your Family First, dedicated to helping people find the tools that they need to succeed and to take their lives to the next level. And along the way, I had the pleasure of working with a couple of U.S. presidents. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, and I'm as passionate about what I do today as I was back in December of 92.
That's an amazing story. Can I just go back to when you left public accounting to start up as an entrepreneur? Was that scary?
Now, I'd already left everybody I knew behind and moved to Atlanta to start a career where I didn't know anybody. But at least I knew my roommate and a couple of other people that had moved there. When I left public accounting, I moved to a little tiny town in New Hampshire. I didn't know a soul. I didn't know what I was going to find in the company. So yeah, it was very, very scary. But I have found throughout my life part of experiencing life is is being curious and creative and stepping outside your comfort zone. And yes, it was definitely scary, but it came back to why not give it a shot? Why not try it?
So you mentioned your husband, and the relationship between Rich Dad, Poor Dad began with your husband. And it also began with Rich Dad, Poor Dad as a board game. How did you, as the CEO of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, take that concept of a board game into what it's become today, or what it became just before you left, which is a series of 15 books?
Well, one day I got a phone call from my husband, and he was, there's a common theme. Phone calls tend to change my life. And he had met this guy that had this idea for a board game drawn out of a piece of paper, and it was Robert Kiyosaki. So I met Robert at the very first beta test for the board game Cash Flow. And it was really consistent with what I was teaching. And this was 1996 at this point. So I volunteered to help him commercialize it based on my knowledge and experience and context from the Talking Children's book. And so during that process, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for the board game. And this was 1996. That's pretty pricey for a board game. Maybe you should write a brochure that explains your philosophy about that this is more than just a board game. That really is financial education at its best. And that's when he asked me to be his partner. And we wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was intended to be a brochure. We didn't realize it was going to take off a life of its own. And the world said, no, your brand is not cash flow, your brand is Rich Dad. And so that became a 10-year partnership. And I was CEO of the company, and using all my experience and background in publishing and knowledge of licensing with Michael's help, we were able to spread the book around the world, over 102 countries, over 51 languages. We wrote 15 books together, and we built the largest personal finance brand in the world. But it was through the collaborative efforts of my husband's brilliance in the legal side of things, my experiences from both publishing and certainly from accounting, as well as the understanding how to find the right partners through licensing. Because when we were building the Talking Children's book company, we had this new technology, and kids didn't have electronics back then. Mm-hmm. So we said, how can we get parents to teach us? And so we made alliances with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, and that allowed us to have an instant trust from parents, allowed us to grow the company very quickly.
So you mentioned that when the relationship between Rich Dad, Poor Dad and you came to a conclusion, you worked with some presidents. How did that go? How did you even get into that position where you were working with these incredible people in these incredible positions?
Well, I share that story because I want the listeners and the viewers to think about how it relates to your own life. Sometimes you have to close one door for other doors of opportunity to open. And had I not left Rich Dad, I wouldn't have had incredible opportunities. When I made the decision to leave Rich Dad, it's because we were no longer aligned in our missions. And I knew I had to stand in my truth. So I made the decision to leave Rich Dad without knowing what was in front of me. And I thought my legacy was Rich Dad, but somebody upstairs had said, oh no, there's work for you to do. And a few months later, I got the phone call from the White House asking me to be on the first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy, which was an incredible honor. I served both President Bush and President Obama. And I wouldn't have had that call had I still been at Rich Dad. A few months later, we know what was happening to the economy in 2008. March of 2008, I got a phone call from Don Green, who is the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And he invited me to help them reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill, because a lot of young people at that point in time did not know anything about Napoleon Hill or Think and Grow Rich. And so again, that was having built the largest personal finance brand and then being invited to step in the world's largest personal development brand. Incredible, inspiring, and just an awesome experience. But I certainly wouldn't have had the call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation had I still been at Rich Dad. So that's why I share the story, because I challenge everybody watching and or listening. Is there a door in your life you need to close so that other doors of opportunity will open?
None of us ever know what's ahead of us. So Napoleon Hill wrote a lot of amazing books, and two of the ones I've definitely read more than once are Outwit the Devil and Think and Grow Rich. But why did you decide to write a book called Think and Grow Rich for Women?
Well, the original Think and Grow Rich was released in 1937 at a time when there were very few women in business, if any. We were nurses and secretaries and teachers. And so most of my career, I resisted writing anything for women. And in fact, in the book Think and Grow Rich for Women, the first line is, why a book for women? Because I think the steps to success are the same for men and women. And I still believe that. The issue is we approach those steps very differently. And when I wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women, I had gotten pretty frustrated. Usually when I get frustrated, I do something about it, like write a book or develop a program. And there were two things. One was women were complaining and criticizing about all the men who stood in their way and held them back. And if you are a student of the law of attraction, when you spew negativity, what do you attract? Negativity. And so I really wanted to change the dialogue and say, let's stop criticizing, let's stop lamenting, and let's start celebrating the progress women have made. Is there more progress to be made? Of course, yes, there is, but let's celebrate how far we've come, and let's celebrate the men who've helped us along the way. Because when you start celebrating and doing positive, you attract positive results. So we will see more change more quickly if we change our dialogue. The second reason I wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women was because I was getting so tired of hearing women complaining about work-life balance. The word balance belongs in the yoga studio. We are always moving. We are never in balance. We're constantly stepping forward, stepping back, stepping to the side, whatever it is. We're constantly in motion. And what we need to be focusing on is one big life. You have your faith, you have your family, you have your friends, you have your finance, you have your fitness, all of those things combined. And then you have your business, your field, whatever you do. Those all combine to who you are. And when you haven't spent time with your kids, instead of wasting precious time today about worrying what happened yesterday, just make a different decision and keep moving forward. And it's been, those two reasons were the primary reasons I wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women. And in that process, I found the definition of worry. To worry is to pray for what you do not want. Comes back to that law of attraction. And so it helped me so much in my life. I share it all the time. So I get into my worry storm still today. I'm a champion worrier, but I catch myself. And I go, Sharon, instead of concentrating on what I don't want to happen, let's retool my thoughts and concentrate on what I do want to have happen. And it really is magical because, again, your mind cannot hold positive and negative at the same time. So replace the negative thought with a positive one and see what happens.
And miracles can happen when you start to convert things into positive statements rather than negative statements. And one of the things that I try to tell people is mindset comes first. Your health is important, but mindset comes first. Now, is there any such thing as thinking too big?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think with proper preparation, no. Most people think too small. And so, the bigger you can think, the more impact you can make. So my Play Big movement, which is a free Facebook page and group inside Facebook, is about being number one in your field, being the authority, living your legacy, because your legacy is created every single day with every heart you touch, and creating maximum impact. If you're going to be working, why not work at a level that you can impact the most people? So dream big. Dreams only become reality when you put them into action. So play big, take big action to get bigger results, but don't do it alone. In my book, 3 Feet from Gold, which was the first book I did with the Napoleon Health Foundation, I shared the personal success equation, which is P plus T, which is your passion and your talent. And that's really what school teaches us in our life experience combined. So my passion came from anger that we were teaching kids about money in school. My talent was all those years as a CPA, all those years in publishing. And we combine that. And most of us stop there thinking we have to do everything on our own. But true success comes when you combine your passion and your talent times the right association. Who do you have on your team? Who are you working with? Who's your mentor? Business is a team sport. And then times taking action. How many times do we know what we're supposed to do? We just don't do it. So P plus T, passion plus talent, times association, times action, and then plus F for faith. Faith in ourselves, faith in what we're doing, faith that is needed and necessary, and faith that you will succeed. And when I start working with people, one-on-one mentoring, which I absolutely love to do, but it's usually the power of association and faith that need the most work. And they go hand in hand. When you have the right people around you, your confidence goes up. When you have a bad day, they lift you up. So it's really important not to try and go through life alone, but to play that bigger game. Find the right people to surround yourself and make maximum impact.
And no man is an island, as we know. One of the things people may be thinking at the moment is, oh no, she mentioned the law of attraction. Is that woo-woo, as Grant Cardone would call it? It's not woo-woo. It's just a concept, isn't it? It's the art of positive thinking over negative thinking. And that's just to clarify that point.
Well, obviously the book and the movie The Secret brought the law of attraction to modern day, popularity. But one of the things that they didn't put in there, because Napoleon Hill actually wrote about the law of attraction back in 1919. But he talked about, yes, you want positive thoughts combined with positive actions. And so he talks about going the extra mile. Do what you need to do to achieve. Do it with enthusiasm. And so the law of attraction, what you focus on, you bring about. And it truly is, as I said, your mind can only hold positive or negative at one time. And you're the one that chooses. We have the power of choice. As humans, we can control three things: our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And when we start with bad thoughts, stinking thinking, as I call it, negative thoughts, you generate negative words and negative actions. So if you can reprogram your brain and start with positive thoughts, that's why when this whole COVID thing hit the world, I launched something called Daily ATMs. Stands for Abundance, Tips, and Mentorship. And it's just a very short message every morning of positivity and telling people they're fabulous. You can get atm.sharonlechter.com for more information, but it's my way of saying, let's get rid of the negativity. Let's stop listening to the negativity and just allow positive energy, positive thoughts, thoughts of abundance, thoughts of you are fabulous. And I have everybody every single day, I have them end by saying, I am fabulous. And we go, yes, you are.
I subscribe to those and I receive those every day. And you're right, you do say, you are fabulous. Yes, you are. I also meant to say earlier that when you go to your website, there's a subscribe box, and the workbook that you were talking about earlier with your formula, you actually can get that for free. So people can start off with your help before they actually go into a program or anything like that, before they actually read your books.
Yes, personalsuccessequation.com will walk you through the formula of your passion, your talent, power of association, taking action, having faith. And it goes through ways where you can determine what you can do to increase your level of success. Personalsuccessequation.com. Thank you for mentioning that.
I actually completed that, and it was really, really helpful. But what else has been helpful is your books. And you've written quite a few. How did that happen? And how did you, with everything else that's going on, how did you find the time?
Well, I've written 26 books. My 27th is in process right now. So, people have different skill sets and different superpowers. I love to, when I think something needs to be righted or people need to learn something, I will do it in a book format or an online program. I have quite a few online programs as well. And so it's a medium. Some people are excellent at YouTube or other things. Writing a book happens to be one of my strengths. And so I love it. My most recent Exit Rich has made all kinds of awards, and it's on the Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller list, because it talks about, if you're going to build a business, let's build one that's not just successful, but that's sustainable and scalable and saleable. So it talks about really digging down deep to make sure you're doing what you need to put the foundation of your business together so that it can grow.
I know you talk about systems and processes of starting a business and keeping your business alive and growing and scaling your business. Are there any specific systems and processes that you would advise people to start off with?
Well, that's a loaded question. How long do I have to speak? When you start a business, you need to make sure you have it in a proper entity, no matter where you live in the world. You want to make sure it's not in your personal name, so you protect yourself, and that you have the ability to grow within that business. And then you want to make sure as you go through that you build systems that help you operate the business, operations and procedures manuals. Because too many people start building a business around personalities. And so you never really have documented how things happen. From the moment you answer the telephone, taking an order, how do you source your products or your services? How do you deliver it? What's your code of conduct? Those are all processes and systems, and every business needs them. What do you stand for? What's your mission statement? How are you going to fulfill an order? How are you going to collect for that order? All those are parts of the system, and you cannot really grow if you don't have systems in place that can be scalable.
I know that you are an advocate that every one of us has a story, and there's a story inside of every one of us that needs to be told. People need to listen to it because we all have value that we can add to the world. What are you doing in terms of writing at the moment and helping other people get their stories onto paper?
Well, I do a lot of one-on-one mentoring, helping people get their books done, but we constantly are supporting people in getting their stories. And you're right. No matter what you've been through, you're still here for a reason. I lost a son 9.5 years ago, and it really stopped me in my tracks for several years. And it took me a long time. I called it my world of numb to kind of snap out of it. And it was because I made the decision I should retire, and I got a lot of pushback from family and friends. And I think I even heard my son in my ear saying, "Get over it, Mom. There's more for you to do." And so I want each of you to think about whatever's happened in your life, whether it be a death, a divorce, a financial setback, an illness. You're still here. You're still here for a reason. And what you've been through and how you've survived it can help other people going through the same thing. So you have a story to tell. I want to hear your story. I want to support you in getting your story told, but also understand how to build the platform around it so that once you write it, it can be shared and impact even more people. And that's the kind of the genesis and the creation of the Writers Retreat. I'd love to support you. If you want more information, again, reach out to me, info@sharonlechter.com.
And I've been to that site for your 5-day retreat, Writers Retreat, and it looks absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. But just before we go, are there any tips or tricks or takeaways that you can give people to help them get themselves in the right mindset, the right position to forward themselves along that track that they have to go along, or they should go along?
Well, pay attention to what you're surrounding yourself with. If you've not read Outwitting the Devil, it's a book that I released that Napoleon Hill wrote back in 1938. And it's about how we self-sabotage through fear and how to get past that. And one is understanding what is important to you, what's your definiteness of purpose, learning from adversity, and also, most importantly, controlling your environment. And that's why people hang around me. They want to have that positivity. They want those ATMs every single morning. And how you're spending your time. You can either spend your time or invest your time. There's nothing in between. Most of us are letting our time go by. And we can make money, lose it, and make it back. But once our time's gone, we don't get it back. So it's really important to pay attention to how you're investing your time and who you're investing it with. And I would love to support each and every one of you in achieving that next level of success in your life. So please reach out to me, info@sharonlechter.com.
And if there's anybody out there suffering from imposter syndrome, which most of us do some of the time, if not all of the time, what advice would you give them to try and get them through that barrier?
Well, part of it is making sure you have a mentor. All right. A mentor is going to help you get through that and understand where that imposter syndrome is coming from. You read Outwitting the Devil, as I said, because that's usually something that was implanted in your brain as a young child. And once we can unravel that, figure out where it came from, you can release it. But sometimes it's planted so deeply in your subconscious, you need help. You need that mentor. You need someone to help you get rid of that and open it so that you can realize that you deserve the greatest success. Don't let anybody or anything stand in your way.
That's amazing advice. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here today with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm So grateful for you to share your knowledge with me on this platform.
Well, thank you so much, Isabel. Thank you for doing this for everyone and all of you watching and listening. Please continue supporting Isabella and reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.